I was born and raised in New Orleans. I grew up in the restaurant business and professional chef, and I was a single dad raising 3 kids. And the school district that I raised my kids in came to me and said, "You're a chef and you're a businessman and you know a lot about this industry. Help us not to be a chicken nugget factory." So that's kind of how I got started. I got started by accident, and it was just being a parent and a chef that wanted to do right by his kids.
Were you a good student?
I was a horrible student. Look, I didn't get math until I started taking apart recipes. I didn't understand chemistry until I saw bread rise. I mean, that was the voice that spoke to me, and I think that that's the voice that speaks to thousands of children in America. And there are all these young Julia Childs and James Beards waiting to break out if only we can facilitate a voice for them to hear. Like many things in my life, I got into farm to school by accident. I was driving down the road screaming at my produce company for not delivering my apples on time. And I kept dropping the cell call, and I pulled off to the side of the road, and I realized I was parked in the middle of an apple orchard. And I went out of my car and walked up the road and saw this woman sorting apples, and she had this one pile of big apples and another size pile of palm-sized apples, and I thought, little apples, little hands, it kind of fits. And my vans drove by there every day delivering food, and I said, "So what if I purchased all those little apples that you can produce for the schools?" And it worked out really well. Her apple farm had been a family farm for 5 generations, and it was at a place where they had to seriously consider selling part of the farm off to a housing development to keep it alive. And it was our contract with our schools that continues to keep that a family farm today. So it's so important to connect kids with the origins of real food. I think that as a chef and as a food educator, the single most powerful tool that I have at my disposal is to give a kid a seed and let them plant that seed until it grows into something that they can harvest, that they can prepare, that they can share with their peers. Like, it forever changes the way you look at food. It's no longer consumption, and it teaches so many other valuable lessons. But importantly for me, it teaches my kids about food.
And you've got kids cooking for other kids, right? How's that working?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in Baltimore, we're kind of a unique program. We're the first program in America that we took our hospitality schools. We have 5 programs in Baltimore City. We have 86,000 kids in our system, right? And our kids are now preparing the dinners for a universal free supper program that's part of a USDA pilot. So they grow the food on our Great Kids Farm. We also own a 33-acre organic farm that was the site of an abandoned orphanage, and so they plant it, they grow it, they cook it, they serve it. So they get this vertically integrated business model of how this works. Look, I think it's important to feed kids really good food. I think it's also important to give kids career opportunities. And this career for me has been fabulous. I mean, I've cooked around the world. I've cooked from Hartford to Hong Kong. And I'm a kid who began his life in the Desire Street projects in New Orleans. I mean, I clearly wear my fleur-de-lis over my heart, but I always remember that. I always remember my origins. And this has been an amazing career, and I'm happy to share it with anybody.